Most of us already know how to use the coordinate system and we have used it while plotting graphs. But in any case, let's take a look at it to learn something about the conventions that we use. To begin with, we have these two axes, what we call the x and y axes. They're called the x and y axes because of this gentleman, René Descartes. He was a French scientist and mathematician who lived in the 1600s, and he proposed this. He didn't propose, he published the system of these, calling these perpendicular axes x, y, and if the third axis comes out of your screen, that would be the z axis. So because he was the first one to publish this, we call a plane formed by two axes a Cartesian plane. Okay, so this rectangle you see here on your screen is a Cartesian plane, but any plane formed by the x and y axis is called a Cartesian plane. The axes must be perpendicular to each other, and also by convention we find the horizontal axis is called the x-axis, the vertical axis is called the y-axis. Additionally, the x-axis increases in the rightwards direction and it decreases in the leftwards direction. If we take the intersection of these two axes, this intersection to be the origin, everything to the left of the origin will have a negative value and everything to the right of it will have a positive value on the x-axis. If we talk about the y-axis, everything above the origin has a positive value and increases in the upward direction, and everything below it and going downwards has a negative value. Let's try plotting some points. So to begin with, here we make our x-axis, here we make our y-axis. Now, while labeling points, we use a convention x, comma, y, which is to say that whenever we specify a point, we specify the x value first, followed by the y value. So this is the origin. It has a value of 0, comma, 0, which means 0 on the x and 0 on the y. Let's take some examples. So let's take a point over here. Now this point, let's first take the x value. So 1, 2, 3, 4 units along the x-axis. Open the brackets, write positive 4, put a comma. The y value is 1, 2. So it has a coordinate. Its coordinates are 4, comma, 2. Let's take a point in the second quadrant. Let's say we take a point over here, and this point has first we're going to take the x coordinate -1. So this is the origin. So we're going to the left. So -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. Its x coordinate is -6, comma. The y coordinate is 1, 2, 3, 4. Positive 4. Note that it is above the origin. So it has a y coordinate of positive 4. Let's take a point over here, and its x value comes first, which will be -1, -2, -3, -4. So we write it as -4. And here its y coordinate is -1, -2, -3. So here you note that both the x and the y value have negative values. Let's take in this, for this point. So what we find here, the x value is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's positive 5, and its y value is -1, -2, -2. So comma, -2. This is how we label points as per the Cartesian convention. Based on the Cartesian convention, we have divided the plane into 4 quadrants. This is one quadrant, and going in the anti-clockwise direction, we call this the second quadrant, then the third quadrant, and then the fourth quadrant. So we find that the first quadrant, all the x values are positive and all the y values are also positive. In the second quadrant, we find the x values are to the left of the origin. So the x values are negative and the y values remain positive because they are above the origin. In the third quadrant, the x values are negative and the y values are also negative. In the fourth quadrant, we find the x values are positive, but the y values are negative.